Welcome back to All This Math. This is Professor Parker, and I want to give a shout out to Johnson C. Smith University, located down in Charlotte, North Carolina. Johnson C. Smith University is a historically black college and university, as I said, located down in Charlotte, North Carolina. Shout out to all the alumni. Shout out to the students down there now. And if you've never heard of Johnson C. Smith University, go and do some research. Go research that. Look them up. All right. Now let's get into it. So we're doing some more unit conversions. I got 5 examples up here. We're going to convert some micrograms. MC means micro, right? That's 1/1,000th, right? 1/1,000th, or 10 to the negative 6 power. Micrograms into grams, gallons into tablespoons, cups into milliliters, grains, GR, we don't see that often. That's very small. Grains into milligrams, and pounds into grams. All right. So, if you have or have not seen some of my other videos on unit conversions, we're gonna follow the same method. All right. You take the first measurement, right? The first quantity rather, and you write that. So I'm gonna write that. And put my clipboard down. Right. So I'm gonna write 27,300 micrograms. Micrograms rather. 27,300 mcg. I write that first. Next to that, I write a multiplication sign. You can use a dot or an X, whatever you want. Just put a multiplication sign. Next to that, you're going to put a fraction. Now, this fraction that you write is going to be very important. It's a very important fraction. I like to call it a conversion fraction. That's my conversion fraction. All right. Some textbooks might call it something different. Your professor, your teacher might call it something different. Whoever, somebody else on YouTube might call it something different. I call it a conversion fraction. All right, because it helps me to convert. Now, this fraction, a couple things you got to know about this fraction. This fraction must have a value of 1, meaning the value of the numerator and the value of the denominator must be equal. Even if they're in different units, the values must be equal. All right, kind of like 7 days and 1 week. 7 is not the same number as 1. 7 and 1 are different numbers, but the units are different as well. And the value of time, or the length of time, is equivalent. 7 days is equivalent to 1 week. All right. Now, we're going to do the same thing here. What we need to know is the conversion factor between micrograms and grams. So if I know that this prefix micro, and see, we're dealing with grams. We're going from grams to grams. So it's not like some of these other problems where we're dealing with different, units and whatnot. We're dealing with grams and grams, or I should say base units. We're dealing with grams and grams, but this is micrograms. So this is 1/1,000th of a gram. So what this represents is if you took a gram and somehow divided it up into 1,000,000 equal pieces, 1,000,000 equal pieces. Each of those pieces would be a microgram. 1,000,000 pieces, each of those individual equal pieces would be micrograms. 1,000,000 of them is equivalent to 1 of these. So we're going to write the prefix microgram in our denominator, as we always do, because we want to cancel out micrograms and we want to end up with grams. So grams is going to go in the numerator, micrograms is going to go in the denominator. That's just the algorithm. That's just like, that's the setup. That's just what it is. That's something you have to memorize. Whatever you're trying to get rid of, that unit should go in the denominator of the fraction, right? Whatever you're trying to keep or end up with as in the unit, that's going to go in the numerator of the fraction. All right. So now, since we know that 1,000,000 micrograms is equal to 1 gram, that's what we're going to write. We're going to put 1 gram up here, and I'm going to put 1,000,000, 1, 2, 3, comma, 1, 2, 3. 1,000,000 micrograms, because like I told you, if you take a gram and you cut it up or chop it up or divide it up into 1,000,000 equal pieces, each of those pieces would be a single microgram. The prefix micro means 1/1,000th, all right, or 10 to the negative 6 power. All right, so now we're going to do this and this. We cancel those out because they're diagonal from each other, so they cancel out. That's what we wanted to have happen. All right, then we're going to do 27,300 times 1, which is 27,300, but I'm going to skip the step, and I'm going to also divide. I'm going to skip to the next step, which is dividing 27,300 by 1,000,000. Which is essentially what we did to cancel out the micrograms. We did micrograms divided by micrograms, and of course that equals 1. So these cancel out and turn into 1s, even though I didn't really write the 1s, but just know that that's what they turn into. They turn into 1s mathematically, right? So we also can divide 27,300 divided by 1,000,000, And because 1 million is a 1 with a bunch of zeros, 6 to be exact, when you divide by a base 10 number, right, that has zeros in it, has a 1 and many zeros after it, all you need to do is move the decimal place the amount of spaces that is equal to the number of zeros in that number. This number has 6 zeros. 6 zeros. First question, how many zeros does the number have? It's got 6. Second thing, okay, that tells you how many spaces to move the decimal point. Now, when you're doing division, you move the decimal point to the left. The number gets smaller. When you're doing multiplication, which is what we're not doing right now, we're not doing that right now in this problem. When you do multiplication, move the decimal point to the right. All right, division, move to the left. Multiplication, slide to the right. So you might be saying, okay, well, where? I don't see no decimal point in this number. Right, it's not written. What's understood don't need to be said. What's understood don't need to be written. It's a lot of that in algebra. It's a lot of that in math. You got to just understand things, all right? So if there's no decimal point written, then we understand that there's an invisible decimal point after the last number furthest to the right. So you got to understand it. If you didn't know that already, make sure you write that down. Put that in your notes. Because if you didn't know it already, you'll probably forget it. And it's okay if you forget it if you have it written in your notes. So take notes, write this down. All right. So now I'm going to slide this decimal point 6 spaces to the left. I'm going to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I got to go one more space to the left, but there's no number there. So what do I got to do? You got to put a placeholder. The placeholders are zeros. So whenever that happens, whether you're moving the decimal point to the right or you're moving the decimal point to the left, you got to use placeholders if you run out of digits that are already there. So that's going to be equal to 0. Put your placeholder 0.273. Now, these 2 zeros, we don't need to write. We don't need to write them because if I write 0, 0, that's not going to change the value of this, right? If I put a 0 after it, or if I put 2 zeros after it, or if I put 10 zeros after it, it's not going to change the value of this, all right? So I can just leave it as that, and this is 0.0273 grams, all right? 27,300 micrograms is equal to 0.0273 grams, all right? That's number 1. Now let's go to number 2. We're going to do the same process over and over again, the same process. This is how you master things, by doing the same process over and over again, just with different numbers, you know? The game don't change, only the players, right? So we start out with 3.25 gallons. Write your multiplication sign. You can put an X if you want to. Use that as a multiplication sign. It doesn't matter. All right. Write your fraction bar. Now, what am I trying to get rid of? I'm trying to get rid of gallons. So gallons goes in my denominator. Whatever I'm trying to get rid of goes in my denominator. What unit do I want to end up with? Tablespoons. Tablespoons. So that goes in my numerator. I'm tripping. Hold up. tbsp. Yeah. All right. Now, we need to know the conversion rate between gallons and tablespoons. Gallons and tablespoons. I happen to know that because I looked it up earlier. So let me go grab my trusty clipboard and look at my notes on gallons and tablespoons. All right. 1 gallon is equal to 256 tablespoons. Now, how do I know that? I actually had to figure that out because I knew that 1 tablespoon was equal to 0.5 ounces. Which basically means a tablespoon is a ½ ounce. All right, so a tablespoon is a ½ ounce. Now, I also know that, now follow me, follow my logic. I also know that a gallon is made up of 128 ounces, right? So if a gallon has 128 ounces in it, and a tablespoon is equal to a ½ ounce, that means that every 2 tablespoons is going to be 1 ounce. Now listen carefully. A tablespoon is a ½ ounce. A tablespoon is the same thing as a ½ ounce. Tablespoon, ½ ounce. Tablespoon, ½ ounce. So 2 tablespoons is going to be 1 ounce. A half plus a half, right? So, and each of those halves is 1 tablespoon. So that's 1 plus 1, which gives you 2. So therefore, 2 tablespoons is equal to 1 ounce. So every ounce is going to be 2 tablespoons, right? So once you get to 2 ounces, now you got 4 tablespoons. 3 ounces, now you got 6 tablespoons. 4 ounces, now you got 8 tablespoons. So you notice the pattern. Basically, all you're doing is you multiplying 2 times the number of ounces to get the number of tablespoons. So if I know that it's 128 fluid ounces in a gallon, all I got to do is do 2 times 128 because I understand the pattern that I already talked about. 2 times 128 to get the number of tablespoons in a whole gallon. All right, so 2 times 128 is going to be 2 times 100, that's 200. Then 2 times 20, that's 40. Then 2 times 8, that's 16. So 200 plus 40 plus 16 is 256. So that means that 1 gallon is equal to 256 tablespoons. So we put your 1 gallon right here and put 256 right here, because again, this fraction must be equal to 1, right? Because this value in the numerator must be the same as the value in the denominator. It's got to be. Numerator, denominator, they have to be equivalent. They got to be equivalent, all right? This is our conversion fraction. All right, so now put your equal sign, divide gallons by gallons, they cancel out. We're going to do 3.25 times 256. 3.25 times 256. Let me grab my calculator, right? So we get an exact answer. So I got 3.25 times 256 is equal to 832. So this is 832 tablespoons. 3.25 gallons is equal to 832 tablespoons. All right, on to the next. 2 cups, we're going to convert that to milliliters. So I write 2 cups down, put a multiplication sign, put a fraction bar. Now I'm trying to get rid of the cups and keep milliliters. I get rid of the cups, so that goes in my denominator. I keep milliliters, that goes in my numerator, right? Now, what's the conversion rate between milliliters and cups? So let me check my notes. Because, okay, 1 cup is 240 milliliters. 1 cup is 240 milliliters. So 1 cup is equivalent to 240 milliliters, right? So now we got cups divided by cups, or cups divided by cups, that leaves 1. They cancel out, right? Because they're the same thing, they cancel out. Now, then I do 2 times 240. I do the mental math, I don't need a calculator for that. You just do, think about distributive property. Break this down into 200 plus 40. 2 times 200 is 400. 2 times 40 is 80. So 400 plus 80 is 480. So this is 480 milliliters. Boom. All right. So 2 cups is the same thing as 480 milliliters. Now, what about number 4? GR. What does that stand for? Again, grains. It stands for grains. So we got 13.5 grains. Do your multiplication sign, fraction bar. I'm trying to get rid of grains and get into milligrams. So I put GR at the bottom, right? Put milligrams on top, right? Now, what's the conversion rate between grains and milligrams? Between grains and milligrams. Now, grains is a very small quantity. 1 grain is a very small quantity, right? It's not a grain of rice, but I think that that's where the term comes from an amount that's close to that small, right? I know 1 grain is 0.000143 pounds, but we're not talking about pounds. It's also equal to 0.0648 grams, right? But it's also equal to approximately 60 milligrams. Yeah, approximately 60. But wait a minute, that doesn't make sense. I don't know, I need to look more into that. Because if it's 0.0648 grams, then how could it be 60 milligrams? You would just move the decimal point 3 spaces over. That should be 64.8. But you know what? I'm going to do some further research. But for now, we're going to rock with this. We're going to rock with 60 milligrams. We're going to rock with 60 milligrams equaling 1 grain. That's what we're going to do. So 60 milligrams equivalent to 1 grain. We're going to go with that for now. All right? Even though I got some questions about it, I'm going to do some further research after I finish with this video. So, all right, so the grains are going to cancel out because we're doing division. We end up with milligrams. We're going to do 13.5 times 60, right? 13.5 times 60. So if you do 13.5 times 60, grab your calculator. 13.5 times 60 equals 810. So this is 810 milligrams. Unless there's something wrong with this conversion rate. This is bothering me a little bit. If you're watching this at home, do your research and confirm that 1 grain is equal to 60 milligrams, right? Either confirm, prove, or disprove that. You know, just look that up. I can't look that up right now, but look that up though, right? As a matter of fact, I'm gonna put an asterisk by this one because I'm not sure about this one, all right? Let's go to number 5. I'm sure about number 5 though. Number 5, we're going from pounds to grams, So 180 pounds, multiply that by, let's see, pounds in the bottom, grams on top. These pounds are going to cancel out. That's why I put the pounds on the bottom, because I want to get rid of the pounds and I want to convert pounds into grams. So I put grams on top. That's what I want to end up with. My question is, what's the conversion rate between pounds and grams? All right, so between pounds and grams, what do we have? 1 pound is equal to 453.6 grams. All right, so 1 pound, 453.6 grams. So we're going to multiply. Now the pounds cancel out. 180 times 453.6. 180 times 453.6, because 1 pound is 453.6. 2 pounds would be 2 times 453.6. 3 pounds would be 3 times 453.6. 4 pounds would be 4 times 453.6, and so on and so forth, right? So we're going to do 180 times 453.6. Type it in your calculator. 180 times 453.6. That's equal to 81,648 grams. So that's a way to make yourself sound heavy. Yo, instead of saying I'm 180 pounds, a person could say they 81,648 grams. But it's grams though, right? That person would sound huge. But you got to pay attention to the units though, right? Pounds, grams, the units matter, right? Units matter. So that's 5 more examples of unit conversions. I hope that, you know, the algorithm that we use and the method that we use is helpful to you, easy to catch on to, you know. But you got to practice, keep practicing. Practicing gets you close to perfect. All right. I'm not going to say it will make you perfect, but it'll get you very close to perfect, right? Keep practicing on a regular basis so you can definitely get proficient and you can master how to do these, you know, these problems and these unit conversion problems, right? So definitely go get some practice. Again, shout out to the HBCUs, Johnson C. Smith University. Shout out to Johnson C. Smith down in Charlotte, North Carolina. Go get some practice. Ask your teacher, ask your professor, or just do some research online on your own and, you know, get some more practice with these problems so you can master them. And I'll catch you in the next video. Peace.